Greetings. Electric vehicle sales, and that includes battery-operated vehicles as well as plug-in hybrid electric vehicles, are growing at a very rapid rate. And this is approaching a tipping point that I spoke about in a video a couple months ago, and you can see in this card up here. This is a technological disruption of substantial scale and scope, and so I'm going to be talking about this pretty often on this channel. We are witnessing right before our eyes one of the big technological disruptions of the era. And this is very profound, and there are a lot of secondary and tertiary disruptions that go alongside that. So this is going to be a very frequently covered topic on this channel for sure. And to start off, we go to this article that I wrote in December of 2018. It was the Atom Award of the month of December 2018. And this will be in the description box below. I even tallied up some of the commercial vehicles and what their numbers are, at least in the United States, and how that was ultimately the catalyst for major adoption of electric vehicles across the spectrum and also worldwide. So if we go over here, I list out that the US has 800,000 police cars, 210,000 postal service vans, and a variety of other government vehicles. On top of that, private enterprises include 110,000 UPS vehicles, 60,000 FedEx vehicles, and perhaps over 300,000 pizza delivery vehicles. And once these transition to electric, then there's a big inflection point ahead of the early adopters buying Teslas and other $50,000 type cars. And since December 2018, a fair amount of this has happened. So for a primer, we go to this chart in the article and focus on the right-hand side over here. That's what's much more important. There are two exponential trends improving the cost effectiveness of batteries. The blue line to the left is battery cost worldwide dollars per kilowatt hour, and that is improving. And this chart was from 2015. We're almost at the end of this chart, but that is what has already occurred in terms of massive cost reduction. But on this maroon line over here to the right, you see battery average density watt hours per liter. And that has risen 4x from 2008 to 2022 is a 4x increase from 100 to 400. That is profound because now the efficacy of the battery component of an electric vehicle, which was the most expensive component in relation to internal combustion engine cars, has dropped because of two exponential trends working in its favor. And despite the entrenchment of the internal combustion engine and gasoline paradigm, the rate of growth of electric vehicle sales is now very, very rapid, and the numbers are starting to get very meaningful. And by that I mean meaningful in an economic sense, not just to a level that helps Tesla's stock price go up, but meaningful in a global macroeconomic sense. And to expand on that, we go to the Inside EV's website. This Inside EV's website reports the monthly global sales, and they elaborate the details that battery electric vehicles, meaning ones that are fully electric, have risen and are now 6.1% of all new car sales, and plug-in hybrids are an additional 2.6% of all new car sales worldwide. The total of the two is 8.7%. 8.7%. Now to visualize this in terms of a graph, we go over here and I click on that. This chart is kind of complicated for those not familiar with this sort of data representation, so permit me to explain. This horizontal legend over here represents individual years per color, and therefore we smooth out seasonality. So to look at annual growth rate, we go to January, and that comprises 6 Januaries, 2016 to 2021. June is similarly 6 Junes, 2016 to 2021. And this is the amount of growth, and we're getting to 8.7% of all new cars sold as being electric. That is meaningfully changing the entire paradigm of automobile technology. This has all sorts of other effects, such as gas stations shutting down in large numbers across the world. That is about to happen relatively soon. Once more and more new vehicles are electric vehicles, we're also going to see a major downward pricing of used internal combustion engine vehicles, cars that are 2 to 3 years old. Remember, in the United States alone, there are about 220 million internal combustion engine vehicles that are already in private use. Some of those were bought recently as well. Many of these are going to have to get priced downwards because the new technology is more efficient. Worldwide, there are perhaps 1 billion internal combustion engine cars that are still in active use, and as electric vehicles rise as a percentage of new car sales, the demand for these used internal combustion engine vehicles, which have already been built and are already in use, goes down, and there's going to be a huge bargain in that as well. There's going to be a huge change in the economics of oil import and export because the majority of electric vehicle sales are are in China and in Europe, both of which are major oil importers from the Middle East. And this is something that has been worsening their balance of trade of both entities for a long time. Elimination of oil imports boosts their economies tremendously at the expense of the Middle Eastern oil exporters. The increase in electric vehicle sales is not a strain on any electrical grid to any significant degree, because not only do most electric vehicles charge during nighttime, but solar and wind sources of electricity, especially solar, is also growing very quickly, as I speak about in other videos as well. So new capacity is coming online that assists in this additional electrical demand, and LED bulbs, which we've also spoken about on this channel, have in fact reduced electricity consumption for lighting by a huge degree. So that surplus electricity is merely going to electric vehicles. The electric grid will not get strained even from the first 20 million EVs in use worldwide, which we're not at yet by any means. So don't worry about the strain on the grid. The only caveat is mismanagement, such as PG&E in California and other places where something that should work well and was working well for many decades is being mismanaged into a situation of electricity shortages and misallocations. But this chart is very profound. Just look at the growth rate over 6 years. And this chart used to go all the way back to 2010, but the years before 2016 are too low to bother depicting on this chart over here. The growth is very substantial. 8.7% of new cars are electric vehicles. That is profound. We are very close to this tipping point, and the multi-layer disruption that is resultant from it. That is an atom disruption at its finest, because all sorts of expensive things are being reduced in price, and we are seeing low-tech being replaced by high-tech. Internal combustion engine technology was improving 1 to 2% a year in terms of miles per gallon and reliability, whereas battery technology is improving at a much higher percentage rate per year, 7 or 8% a year, some would say even. Now going back to the main article, we can look at the most successful brands. Tesla is far and away the leader. It is twice as much as any other manufacturer, and the number 2 company, this Chinese company, SIAC GM Wuling, sells much lower average priced cars than Tesla does. So revenue-wise, Tesla is very much at the top of the electric car game. And people doubted Elon Musk. They believed he could not do it. But I actually predicted Tesla's success as far back as 2007 or so. And I'm going to show you articles about that from my blog, The Futurist, where I wrote that, and where I picked it so many years in advance that this company was something special. And the first principles of technological disruption sort of mandated that electric vehicles would finally become viable after many, many false starts. A lot of people whose mindset is still in the 1970s and 80s, or even the early 2000s. In the United States, that's represented by a lot of Cold War era boomer conservative types. They still believe electric vehicles are just little golf carts, and they have no recognition of the technological changes. Whatever arguments they used in 2002, or even worse in 1980, while they were true then, those same arguments are not true now, that an EV is a golf cart and has all sorts of technological limitations. They have no understanding of technological progress, and we will discuss that in some videos as well. But as we can see here, Tesla is far and away the leader in the EV game, and whether that is maintained for the long term or not remains to be seen, but at the moment, it has created a new industry outright. And that is the big technological disruption of our current times. There's others going on as well, as I write about, but this is pretty much the largest one in terms of dollar impact at the moment. Now, if you found this type of content interesting, I encourage you to subscribe to this channel, and thank you very much for watching.